Hello, and welcome back to Hunter Tuned. Today we're going to be doing some fuel system stuff and maybe a little bit of wiring on the Mustang. Figured I'm just going to keep plugging away at this thing day by day, and hopefully we can make a pass in it this year yet. I'm really hoping I can. Hopefully time and weather permits. But anyways, we're going to dive right into it. I already kind of got the fuel cell mounted back into the trunk where it was. So I just got my fuel cell bolted down into the spare tire well. There's really nowhere else to put it unless I want to cut the whole car up and make some freaking different, back area here with some different metal, which I don't really want to do. I plan on just running the fuel cell right here because my fuel pumps are actually mounted to the bottom of the spare tire well. So I have two Bosch 044 pumps running, and they're bolted onto the spare tire well here, along with the fuel tank itself. So since I already had the lines made and everything for where the tank was, I didn't really want to change any of it because, like I said, then I'd have to redo the lines and I'd have to redo a lot of stuff, and that would cost a lot of money, which I don't have. So I got the return line bolted onto the top of the tank here, and I also have the two feed lines coming off the tank to the fuel pumps hooked up as well. This is my vent. I just put a fitting on here last year that just kind of sat there, and then I put a rag over it for a vent. I don't really know what the proper way to do it is, but if you leave this thing open and you fill the cell all the way up, it will, it'll burp fuel out of there and whatnot. So I did just cover it with a rag last year, but I don't know what a proper way to vent these are, or what I would need to put on that for a vent, because like I said, if you leave it open, it'll spill fuel, or if I can just cap it off and be all right that way. I have no idea. So I have my wiring for my fuel pumps right here. These are just the power wires for the fuel pump because I have the pumps actually grounded to the chassis underneath the car. So these are just the power wires that I have to run up to a switch or whatever to activate them. And then I have my battery box sitting right there too, because I'm thinking I'm going to want to put the battery box in that location, right around in this area here. That way it's still like behind the back seat and everything like that. So I could technically build like a wall, like a sheet metal wall right there, because I think you're supposed to be separated from the gas tank and the battery. There's supposed to be a firewall in between the two, like in between the driver and the battery and all that, technically. So I'm probably just going to run it there for now, not build a wall yet, but eventually I may do that, and I want to put it in a spot where I'm still able to do so. So under the hood, I got my return line coming off of the rails here. Goes into a cheap eBay, I think it's like a $30 fuel regulator. It's like an Aeromotive copy, and I've had that thing in here for a while, and it seems to work, and it's never given me any problem. And then I also have my big Dash 10 feed line that comes up to here for this side's rail. All ran up to here already, but I have to get the fuel injectors installed into the manifold and get my fuel rails bolted down. So that's what I'm going to do next. I'm going to grab the injectors and fuel rails and try to get all that bolted onto the manifold. Alright guys, so I got the intake manifold off of the car, and I got my fuel rails right here. These are Chinesium, they're just Chinese LS billet fuel rails. So it has a crossover that connects both of them that I put into the front, and then the injectors are obviously going to go into the bottom. These are the Snake Eater 2200cc LS1 long style injectors, and I'm going to throw these into the fuel rails and kind of figure out where the rails need to be bolted up, because these rails actually come with a bracket for 4 of these, and they get bolted on and then they bolt onto the manifold. So these brackets I actually had to modify a little bit when I was running the decapped injectors, because the way that they were set up is for the long style injectors, and the decaps are way shorter than this. So I had to modify this bracket and use a spacer and stuff to get the decaps to actually work with these rails on this manifold. But I did make it happen, but now I'm pretty much just going to have to hook it up how it would be stock, I'm assuming, because these are stock length injectors. At least I think they are. So I'm going to take some grease. This is just like bearing grease, and I'm going to lube up the O-rings a little bit on both sides. And then I'm going to slide the injector into the fuel rail. You put a little bit of grease on the O-rings, guys, and they last forever. The only time the O-rings really go bad is when they get dry and they crack. But if you put a little bit of grease on them, you usually don't ever have to replace them. So I'm just going to keep sliding these all in. Alright, so now that the injectors are all on one side here, we can pop them into the manifold side of things. Camera position so you guys can see what I'm doing. So we're going to push the injectors into the manifold now. Kind of just walk them down one at a time. Alright guys, so I ended up getting the Snake Eater 2200s installed into my fuel rails and onto the intake manifold. They actually look pretty nice, and the rails are actually sitting where they're supposed to be now, because like I said, when I had the decaps in here with this fuel rail set up, I actually had to make a bracket to lower the rail down way farther than I had to, so like I could barely get the return line on because it was rubbing on the frickin' intake and a whole bunch of other stuff. So ended up getting those in, but I didn't film a whole lot of the process because I was actually kind of stumped, because the brackets that they sent me were, I don't know, these brackets with these cheap eBay rails definitely don't fit how they're supposed to. So I actually had to drill a different hole, a different mounting hole on the bracket, and position it a different way than they recommend to get the rails to actually sit down and clamp down properly onto the injectors. And now they are definitely nice and snug. They're pushed down all the way into the manifold. With the brackets, how they were originally with these China rails is they were actually the rail would sit a little bit higher than it is currently, so the injector had a little bit of free play up and down and wasn't actually sitting all the way down into the manifold. So that could have been one of two things. It could have been a boost leak. You know, if you put boost behind that and that bottom O-ring isn't sealing, you know, it could cause some, you know, boost to get out of there. Or could have been a fuel leak possibly, but hopefully they seal up and everything works good. I think I got the rails on properly from what I think. But yeah, so I'm moving on. I'm doing a few other things. I might actually go get the Hotside of the turbo kit. I was actually at the frickin' parts store today. I went to the GM dealer, and I was going to go pick up some OEM GM multi-layer steel exhaust gaskets, because the ones you buy at AutoZone or O'Reilly's or any of the regular parts stores, they actually they're like a paper composite type material. You guys probably know what I'm talking about. And especially with a turbocharger, they blow out super easily. I'd rather use like a reused metal gasket than them frickin' composite gaskets. Even a brand new one, I blow them out immediately, and a lot of other guys have the same issues where they blow those exhaust gaskets out pretty frickin' easily. So don't waste the time with the AutoZone ones. Just go to the dealer or order a set of multi-layer steel gaskets, or use the, you know, whatever ones that came off of it, if they were multi-layer steel. It is just simply the only way to go with the exhaust manifold gaskets. Like I said, I've had plenty of experience with them, and tried to get the Fel Pros to work, and they just freaking don't. So anyways, guys, I actually got a few gauges here. I went to Mills Fleet Farm here in Wisconsin, and they actually sell this like 3-pack of gauges, and I picked up an oil pressure, voltage, and water temp gauge. So I'm going to try to make this temperature gauge work somehow, but I don't know exactly how I'm going to make it work because it's like this mechanical gauge style. I think that's 1/4-inch pipe thread, and I don't know where I'm going to put that gauge. So like I said, that's for the water temp. I know some guys will like drill the water pump. I just don't know where I can drill the water pump to get an accurate reading. I already have the coolant temp sensor for the Megasquirt. That's going to be running just like the factory sensor. It'll plug right into that, and the Megasquirt will see the coolant temp for the engine, but I want to have a gauge in my dash along with the oil pressure and voltage, trans temp, tack, boost, and wideband. I think that's the gauges I'm going to use. But yeah, so I wanted to see where you guys would maybe recommend to run that Boss into the water pump. I'm not scared to drill and tap it. I just don't want to drill and tap it more than once. I want to get it right the first time. And I know some guys do it up here, but I don't want to put it right here because the throttle, I think, would get in the way. Maybe it wouldn't. I don't know. Maybe it'd be alright right here. Otherwise, maybe down by the thermostat, but I also don't want it to interfere with the thermostat because I am still running a thermostat. Otherwise, possibly like right here, maybe. I don't know. Not sure. But I did get my accessories on as well. I did not cover this either in the last video. This is just my accessory drive that I run. I've never had no issues with it so far. This is just the LS Simple, lssimple.net, I believe. They sell this little bracket right here, and it deletes the power steering and puts the alternator where the power steering was. So you just have an idler, the alternator, and the water pump. That is it. So, and then the tensioner is way up here. Factory location for LS1 style water pumps. And nice and simple. The less going on up on the accessory drive, the less chance you have for belt throwing issues, which I've had plenty of experience in the past with trucks and stuff. I also got the starter installed down there on the block. I had that starter from, you know, when the last motor blew up, so I just figured I'd throw it back on. And then I got my tranny cooler hoses running up off the transmission here. This is just like transmission oil cooler hose. You can actually buy this specific hose right at AutoZone or O'Reilly's, and it's not too expensive, and it's just rubber hose, but it does work if you clamp it good. It's actually rated for transmission cooler, so it works just fine. I've used it pretty much on every build that I've done with an automatic transmission. I've just used this rubber hose stuff, and it seems to work pretty good. Now, the oil pressure gauge that I picked up is just a mechanical. It has an 1/8 inch pipe thread, which I actually got an adapter for the back of the block. It's just an adapter that goes where the factory oil pressure sensor goes, and it adapts that big old thread to 1/8 inch. So I'm gonna run my oil pressure gauge off of that like I did before. So that will be easy. And then the rest of it, I just gotta figure out that water temp gauge, and then we should be able to start doing the gauges. But I gotta figure out what I'm gonna do for like a switch panel and stuff yet, which I'm probably gonna do tomorrow. Haven't really decided on what I'm gonna do with all that yet. Alright guys, so I actually just threw the Hotside on the driver's side. So this is like a whole chunk of pipe that I'm throwing on to kind of position the turbo where I want it, just because I don't really know what else to do at this point. I kind of just thinking of things I need to get done, and yeah, so I'm just gonna try to get the turbo kind of mocked up quick. This is the turbo that I'm running. It's been sitting in my garage. It's been kind of moist outside, so the turbine housing has a little rust on it, but oh well, it'll still be all right. So this thing is a V-band entry, so I actually had to cut off my old T4 flange. This is the pretty frickin' restricted T4 flange that I was running. So we're going to get rid of that and weld this V-band onto the end of that pipe. So I'm just going to take that V-band and weld it onto this sucker right here, which is just a big old 3-inch pipe that's coming off of the exhaust housing manifold setup thing. So yeah, I built this whole turbo kit kind of as a joke with the existing piping that was on the car when I bought it. Kind of the same thing I did on my truck recently, but yeah, it should work. I'm hoping it works, and hopefully it's not too restrictive. I actually kind of redesigned the Hotside a little bit at the end of this year, and kind of just made sure that it was flowing a little bit smoother than it was before, because I did have literally an H pipe as a merge, which is not that efficient. So I fixed that merge, and now it all flows pretty smoothly. It doesn't look that great, but I mean, it doesn't need to look good to flow good. So, or it doesn't need to look good to operate properly. But anyways, I'm going to take this V-band clamp off of here and get this flange off of here. There we go. Trying to do this one-handed. Alright, so this is the flange that I'm going to weld on. This thing is beefy as shit. Super thick. So I'm going to take that and weld it right onto there. Just like that. So, sweet! Alright guys, it's the next day now. I actually took a break last night and quit working on the car. But anyways, I got the Hotside over here and I got it welded up. I actually got a new welding helmet too, so I was actually able to weld it. Because last night I was trying to and my helmet was not cooperating. So I just got a new welding helmet and ended up welding this thing, this V-band flange onto my Hotside. So this thing is all ready to go. I just got to get it out of here. There she is, all goobered onto there. That pretty fucking beautiful Hotside right there. Look at that. So anyways, I got some gaskets from the GM dealer today as well, and some new bolts. Don't buy the bolts from the dealer. They're fucking $6 a piece. So it would have been $75 to put new bolts in, so I just went to the hardware store and got bolts. And new gasket, and I got some red RTV. This is the high temp RTV shit, and I usually put some around each of the circle, or the ports on the head on the gasket. That actually helps with sealing these things up with all the back pressure that is created with the turbo. And I do this on my Honda too. I just put a little bit of RTV around the ports and never have exhaust leaks. So if the flange is a little warped or something, this will cover it up. So I'm going to get this side installed, and then I'm going to move on to doing the other side. Alright guys, so this is the end of the video. I'm going to end it off here and probably pick up tomorrow with doing some wiring stuff. And yeah, hopefully you enjoyed today's video. Didn't really do a whole lot. We got the turbo welded on to the, we got the hot side kind of plumbed up. I actually got some gaskets and ended up putting new bolts and stuff in. Put the RTV around the gaskets and all that stuff. Maybe I'll continue the video here and make it a really long video. Should I do that?
No.
Okay, I'll split it. Okay, see you later. Have a good day.